Right, let's start from here. What was perceived as a peaceful demonstration turned chaotic when police had to arrest leaders of Let My Vote Count Alliance after the group defied a court order over the use of route to present their petition to the Electoral Commission. We're told that those arrested have been given bail by the police. But let's watch what transpired earlier this morning.
The group showed a clear intention to defy the court order right from the start.
From here, we are marching to the Electoral Commission. I believe that the police are saying that they've put in an injunction on us and we have to go to House of Folk Park. This is not a Keep Fit club. If it's a Keep Fit club, we would have marched to the House of Folk Park. We are not going to play football there. We are marching to the Electoral Commission. When the NDC was going there in 2008, did they ask for police permission before they went there?
Disagreements with the police started. At the Adebraka Farisco traffic light, the group showed no regard for the blockade by the police. A well-determined Let My Vote Count Alliance group was bent on presenting their demands to the Electoral Commission. The group, suspecting some elements had infiltrated their ranks, group again defied police directives and used unapproved routes and gathered at the Holy Spirit Cathedral.
Yes.
To disperse the crowd, the police fired tear gas and used water cannons. Some demonstrators were hurt in the process.
In the course of movement, they veered off the agreed route right before the NDC headquarters, heading apparently for the EC offices. So the police decided to stop them.
The leaders were arrested over the disturbances and failed to present the petition as arranged originally. The Ghana Police Service secured an injunction Tuesday to restrain the Let My Vote Count Alliance, the Alliance for Accountable Governance AFAD, and the Movement for Change from picketing at the Electoral Commission. Komla Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Right, so those were some scenes from the earlier demonstration today, and the rest will be joined by Ibrahim Eje, member of Let My Vote Count Alliance. But let's go to the phone lines and speak to a legal practitioner as to if the group defied the order of the court and if perhaps the police was justified in arresting them. Lawyer Opon has just joined me on phone. Lawyer Opon, we're grateful once again for your time tonight.
Yes, good evening. Right.
So there was a court order detailing the route to be used by these demonstrators. Particularly, they were not to go to the premises of the Electoral Commission. The group had wanted to go there. Clearly, this is defying the court's order.
Well, Bright, good evening to your viewers. I think it's important to establish the fundamental principles that we as a people have fashioned in respect of our rights, and specifically Article 21, Clause 1, and then when you take D, the Constitution guarantees freedom of assembly, including freedom to take part in processions and demonstrations. And when you read G, freedom of movement, which means the right to move freely in Ghana. So clearly, an individual's right to move freely in Ghana and to participate in demonstrations and processions have been guaranteed under the Constitution. But the same Constitution, under 21(4), also states that a court of law may restrict a person's freedom of movement and even to partake in demonstrations and in the manner that he wishes, if it is required in the interest of defense, public safety, or public order, that may be appropriate by a court to so grant that application. Now, again, when you look at the Public Order Act, in fact, reading the Public Order Act, I even believe that the police, if all they needed was to guide the demonstrators or to restrict them from taking certain routes or picketing at certain areas, they didn't even need to go to the court for a court order. The Public Order Act really mandates them to ensure that in the interest of public order, public safety, public health, they regulate even the movement of such demonstrators, or as the law puts it, organizers of special events like this demonstration. But what I'm not sure of is whether or not these demonstrators or intending demonstrators have in fact disobeyed any order of the court or defied, to use your word, the orders of the court. I mean, we all know the consequences of non-compliance with orders of the court, and the consequences ought to be clear to all of us, that it can lead to imprisonment of the organizers or their leaders, which can be far-reaching. So I don't know whether they have indeed defied it. If they have, indeed it is not automatic. The person who is to suffer any detriment as a result of the defilement or the non-compliance with the court order, it is that person who has to go to the appropriate court, the court of competent jurisdiction, and file the appropriate application for the appropriate remedy, which will lead to maybe some form of sanctions or warning and the like by the court.
Okay, let's get this clearer. You were insisting that, for instance, the police need not have gone to court to seek a court order, and that the Public Order Act could have dealt with these protesters. And then again, you're saying that you're not also sure if these protesters defied the court order. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying that I don't have the fact that they have in fact defied it, or they have only threatened to defy it. You can assist me with those facts so we can proceed.
Right. Now, according to the police, one of the reasons why they went to court was to stop them from getting to the premises of the Electoral Commission. They were, according to the police, on their way to the Electoral Commission premises, and that is where tear gas had to be fired and water cannon used to stop them. And so, according to the police, they were bent on defying the court order.
Well, so if you read Section 2 of the Public Order Act, control of routes and crowds, it shall be the responsibility of every police officer to take all such steps as are reasonably necessary in any public place to assist in the proper conduct of any special event by directing the route of such event, to prevent obstruction of pedestrian or vehicular traffic, to disperse crowds at any special event where he has reasonable grounds to believe that a breach of the peace is likely to occur, and the police officer in charge of an area or special event may cause to be closed such streets or parts thereof to pedestrians of vehicular order or both, and may cause to be erected such barriers as may be necessary to preserve public order. So they could have just barricaded the Electoral Commission area, but well, probably they wanted a stronger force to help them. So, well, if they disperse them, I would just want to believe that they may have used appropriate and reasonable, commensurate force or facility to prevent any disorder. But it does not automatically amount to, or the police don't have the power to punish them if it's a court order and has not been complied with. I think their lawyers know too well the steps to take. Otherwise, they cannot also on their own punish them, except to use appropriate mechanism to prevent public disorder.
Some have raised concerns that the issue of the use of force and how appropriate it is has always been a gray area. From where you sit, the use of force in stopping these protesters, if it had to be used, is it possible to be able to know the level of force that the police needed to control a crowd? And how legal can that be?
Well, I mean, you see, we all have to measure. I think we should look at it on case-by-case basis. I mean, if protesters are holding offensive weapons, then the police may also have to, in a way, try as much as possible to apply the rules that guide them. Mind you, police are trained to prevent the commission of an offense. I mean, if you are holding a gun, a policeman may be better placed to discharge you, I mean, to take the gun from you than maybe you and I will be able to do so. So it is not always the case that they may have to use force.
Right.
If a person is holding an offensive weapon, by the time he realizes, the police will have immobilized him, not by the use of force, or at least would have taken the offensive weapon from them. But first, let's not forget that they have their own lives to protect as well, and to prevent harm to others, and even to the person who intends to harm the policeman. So it will be on case-by-case basis. But I think that sometimes one may become overly exuberant. And if care is not taken, it may even result in fatalities. So they have been trained in these areas of crowd control and all that. And I think that they should constantly be taken through maybe further studies on these particular areas, because the Ghanaian is also becoming very much alive to his rights. The Constitution guarantees his freedom of movement. The police may want to restrict it. They may want to insist on it. Dialogue, for me, from the starting point, is the best mechanism. But if it fails, they should apply the knowledge and the skills they've been taught. And unless all these fail and they have no other option than to use force, then they are also trained to apply what is reasonable force in any particular circumstance. And I don't think any specific rules may be enough, or guidelines may be enough as to what may constitute reasonable force or commensurate force at any point in time.
All right. I'm grateful to you, Lawyer Yaupon, as a private legal practitioner. They're talking to me about these demonstrations that turned chaotic. We'll still stay on that particular issue when we host a member of the Alliance, Let My Vote Count Alliance, in the studio. Mr. Ibrahim Ejie will join us very soon. But for now, let's take a short break. When we come back, the big one continues.
Yes.
I should get closer.
There's a lot.
Welcome back to the big one, and we're staying with the demonstration led my Vote Count Alliance. Earlier, we showed you what transpired in the course of the day, and we were speaking to lawyer Yaopon on perhaps a legal angle too. But in the studio is a member of the NPP, and he took part in the demonstration, also a member of the Alliance, Ibrahim Eje, joining us. Great to have you tonight.
Thank you, Brian.
So, what happened? It was supposed to be a peaceful thing from the beginning. It was peaceful, and then at a point it turned chaotic. What happened?
I think firstly, thank you for the opportunity, Bright, because what happened is still confusing to a lot of us and a lot of Ghanaians as well. We've been on many demonstrations in this very Fourth Republic, and what happened this very day, I've never seen it before, where our democracy is embarrassed as Ghanaians, and also our rights have been trampled upon. We've worked hand in hand with the police for so many years. I'm talking in terms of demonstrations or what have you, all adding value to our democracy.
Right.
And on this occasion, I don't know what happened, what order or under what directive, and I'm choosing my words carefully, that the police were under. What happened was this. Let me narrate it as briefly but as succinctly as I can for you, please, Brian, and for Ghanaians as well. Coming, as we proceeded on the march towards the TUC, as happens sometimes, some of the groups veered off, and we ended up by...
From the route.
From the route. And we ended up... But it happens all the time. The Wongbo demo, it happened. The other Let My Vote Counts, it has happened as well. And other demonstrations from across all pressure groups. It happens. But you converge. Now, we ended up at the cathedral. At the point of the cathedral, where the police, and bear in mind, when we branched off where the Echo Bank is, just before you get to Farisco, where some had branched off, you had the police themselves escorting those who had veered off, towards the cathedral. If you know that route, it shouldn't be taken. Why are you escorting the protesters? But anyway, we arrived there.
Was that route part of the agreed one?
No, it wasn't. But
yes. But once the group took that part,
yes,
the police started to escort them.
To escort. And now you have thousands of people. So you have the leadership at the front, and then some of us again at the back. And as we veered off, we ended up by the cathedral, where we met the police barricade. And I tell you on authority, Bright, we engaged in friendly banter. Friendly, and I'm using the words advisedly, friendly banter.
But you're not supposed to go beyond the cathedral to...
We didn't get to the
route that will lead you to the EC's
I understand.
office.
But as I mentioned earlier, I was on a different program with ASP Afiateng of the police. And she mentioned how, this is her statement, that it had happened before where the crowds in the Wongbo demo and the AFAC demo had veered off, and they weren't going to tolerate it again. So I asked her on the program, during those demonstrations, was there one casualty? Was there one death? Was there any property damage during those demonstrations where we, your fellow Ghanaians, had veered off? She couldn't answer that question on the program that I just came.
The court had ordered clearly that don't go there.
Sure, I understand that. But, we are human institutions, Bright. And let's understand that. When you have 20,000 people, to say that you can manage them all, I mean, it's asking a lot. But generally, which is why when AFP Afiateng gave the example that during the Wongbo and Afak demos, they tolerated it. And in that toleration, for which we are thankful for, because you have to accommodate all kinds of emotional activity, let me put it that way. As you did there, and there was no incident, no loss of life, no loss of limb, what changed in this particular incident? When we arrived just before the cathedral, it was friendly banter. And I say so on authority and integrity because, Bright, the police were videoing us. Behind the barricade, the police had their own video cameramen and women, or cameraman that I saw, videoing us. And it is so simple to prove Ibrahim Ajay a liar. Just quickly release the video evidence that you have. And Ghanaians will see whether or not we were being a mob, being riotous, or rowdy.
But once you had defied the order, the agreement that don't use the road, certainly, I mean, that was going to create chaos.
It has never created chaos before. That's the essence of what.
But you're trying to push through the barricade. The police had formed a barricade.
That's why
and the demonstrators were trying to push through.
Nobody's trying to push through. You know, I mentioned that they have the video evidence. I'm on this side. The protesters on this side, and you represent the police on this side. And they were videoing us.
Great.
So I'm just saying...
So once you stood in front of the police...
The friendly banter took place. The friendly banter took place. Then they started firing tear gas indiscriminately. And when that happened, then we dispersed back. We went on to the other lane of the traffic. Prior to that, they'd been whipping Gabi Ochredako. And I'm hoping that the footage will come out, where he did nothing at all to warrant that. Nothing. Where Tasbi? They did nothing at all, but they were whipping him. Whatever political motive they have, the police should come and answer.
The police were whipping him?
They were whipping him.
Just like that?
Just like that. Just like that. Just like that.
That's your account?
It's not my account. It's the account of thousands of people who were there. Or let's say within that enclave, hundreds of people who were there. And the media were there as well. Yourself.
Were your leaders able to control the crowd?
Yes. Now what happened?
The concern is that leaders of the group were unable to control the crowd. And so some of them simply went wayward and broke every rule that had been agreed on.
Right. You cannot fully control 20,000 people plus.
So you take the responsibility.
The responsibility is ours as a leadership. But look at the precedents that we have. I mean, when you say, can we control the crowd, there are no running battles. Because AFP, Afiateng of the police was saying that we were mob riotous and rowdy. There were no running battles. Now, surely, if that was the case, look at the montage that you just showed us, the video evidence that you, TV3, your newsmen and women have captured. You saw the protesters, Ghanaian citizens, either crouched down, being whipped, where on the evidence that you've just shown to our viewers on TV3, Bright, where you saw protesters running against the police, which is evidence of a mob rule or riot. Nothing of the sort. I just want to quickly land on this point as to what happened. When we were engaged in the friendly banter, even one person said, what are you going to do? Because they would look so intimidating with all the military fatigue. Are you going to kill us? To the police. Not in a provocative way, but in a, if you will, like an argumentative way. Let me put it that way. And you are a professional institution. And it's important that we address things in the right places. The majority of the police will respect and honor them. We'll continue to do so. Because we will engage them again in order to make sure we fulfill our petition. Ghana's democracy and having a clean register is at stake here. So our job is not done. Ghana's job is not done. But the majority of the police are overwhelmingly professional. But you have some individuals, and the individuals number in a certain number, a certain size, who were hell-bent on making sure that they either agitated and fomented trouble where there was no trouble at all.
You didn't think the police were doing their job?
Some of the police were not doing their job at all. They came there with a different mindset. This is not the first time.
What happened at that particular intersection? It wouldn't have happened if the group had stuck to the agreed route.
You are a professional institution, the police. They call themselves the peace force. From where did that vernacular disappear from your mandate? You are a peace force, the police force, And you're trained, highly trained, to accommodate human emotions, whereby people come and they will engage in banter with you, friendly banter, and so that you find a way in which you can how can deal with and solve the situation.
Is that why the group wanted to test it?
It's not about testing. As I mentioned, that some individuals veered off, and when you have a crowd, once one veers off and meanders, others naturally follow. With a police escort, bear that in mind. With a police escort, and that should tell you that whether or not this was premeditated to get a portion of the protesters into a pen, you hem us in, and then straight there with no provocation, and all they have to do is to release the video evidence they have, start firing tear gas. When some of us went to assist one gentleman with some pure water to remove the tear gas effect from his eyes, then I heard there was like 4 or 5 policemen and 2 women in front of me, bright. And they said, "Choboy," not we the president, "Choboy." They came, others rushed past me. One policewoman took a baton and hit me here. Another punched me in the stomach here. And then the third one held me by the trousers and said, "You're arrested." I said, "Master, what for?" He said, "Master, let's go." And then they put me into the military police, those blue vans.
How many of you were arrested?
34, of which I was included, was taken to national headquarters. Others were taken to the police station opposite National Theatre. Others were also taken to MTTAU, which is near Tudu, in terms of CMB.
We've told all those arrested have been given bail by the police.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about this vote register thing. IPAC has agreed with EC to submit proposals that come to the second. These proposals are expected to be deliberated on by EC and IPAC. Some have therefore raised the issue that this picketing that resulted in this chaos wasn't necessary.
When we were attaining our independence, Brad, you've mentioned something. I mean, unnecessary how? When we were attaining...
Because the EC and political parties have agreed that bring your proposals, let's sit on this until the 2nd September, and then we can move on from there. Could you have waited for these proposals to be deliberated on, and then perhaps the picketing can go?
When Ghanaians were fighting for our independence, or then Gold Coastians were fighting for our independence, you had political parties who were engaging with the colonial masters, the British. But in support of that agenda, you had market women, school children, youth, tertiary students, all adding their voice to make sure that we became an independent nation. Would it have been right, do you think, Bride, to tell the market women in Ghana or the Gold Coast then, we have political leaders fighting, why are you coming here? You remember AWAM, Association of West African Merchants. Every African on the Gold Coast then was adding their voice to a common cause. IPAC is engaging with the political parties. We are a pressure group giving a voice to Ghanaians who are apolitical or maybe political but are not affiliated. It's a pressure group. You have so many pressure groups around here in this country, and what we do is we add value to the discussion that is going on. It's not about waiting for the politicians too. They have their own agenda and their own does
it suggest you don't believe in what IPAC and EC could come out with?
What it suggests is that because we believe in it, we are adding our voice. We are engaging in a democracy, and we are seeing that institutions are coming together to make sure that we have a clean voters register, using the same processes that Nigeria has used. Just this April, when Nigeria went to the polls, prior to that, they engaged in a process that we are now following, the Let My Vote Count Alliance, and AFAG and other groups as well, whereby Nigerians have expunged. They've removed 8 million ghost names and fraudulent names from their register. For so long, the PDP superintended over a rigged machinery. I say rigged because 8 million names were removed. And it has added value to Nigeria's democratic dispensation. So it's not about allowing the political parties to actually just to engage in the process.
You wanted to add your voice.
We're adding
Let's
value.
begin to wrap up this conversation. So your agenda was not changed. We're told that Let My Vote Count Alliance is thinking of picketing perhaps next week or 2 because you could not present your petition at all.
Yes. What we plan to do is to make sure that we continue to fight for the democracy of Ghana. The 2016 elections, let's understand something, Bright. Sometimes we shouldn't convince ourselves that we are so different from any other nation on this 54-nation state called Africa. Côte d'Ivoire, who would have thought that they would have gone into that civil war where thousands died and tens of thousands are refugees? Many of our brothers and sisters here in Ghana here, because certain processes weren't checked. The electoral roll was, the integrity of it was questioned by Alassane Ouattara. Gbagbo said it won, and we saw what happened. Kenya, likewise. You saw what happened when you had the Luos, the two tribes, the main tribes, and I think the Kikuyus fighting prior to this recent one that Kenyatta has won. We should not dare.
They're not different context at all. You want to?
What is the different context? There was groups not accepting the electoral result based on the fact that the register, the foundation, was flawed, was bloated, and not credible. And so we are adding our voice and asking the EC to give us a fresh voters register. How is it that you can have 76,000 foreigners just from Togo alone on the register?
That's an allegation.
It's not an allegation.
It's yet to be proven.
No.
By, even the NPP.
How can you say that? How can you say that it's an allegation when evidence...
The EC hasn't agreed that that's it.
You know, when you have evidence culled from the Togolese register...
That's the evidence of the NPP, not that of the Electoral Commission.
I'm telling you that evidence has been given. That was my submission just now, Bright. Evidence has been given to the effect that 76,000 Togolese, and per the voters register in Togo, they are Togolese. And let's not get into the discussion about dual citizenship. In the last 12 years, only 126 applications, 126, have been submitted to the Ministry of Interior, which captures dual citizenry. So that, when I say evidence, I hope you would allow me the space for us to have that conversation.
Great.
Because what we want to do, and I'll land here, Bright, we need to make sure that whoever wins 2016, and somebody will win 2016, inshallah, based upon a credible register, there'll be no dispute. But if we dare think that we can have credible or let's say unanimous acceptance of the results in 2016 with a register that is over bloated, that has foreigners inside it, that has minors inside it, whereby you find that over 76,000 pictures have been scanned outside of the live environment, then we should not kid ourselves. We want Ghana to remain peaceful, and it's for that reason that we will pursue and make sure that by next week, by God's grace, inshallah, we will present that petition
to the Electoral
and we're asking inshallah
Ibrahim
to say,
I'm grateful to
accept our petition. And the police should allow for the democratic dispensation to work. They've done it so beautifully.
Thank you, Ibrahim Ajay. Thanks so much for speaking to me. He's a member of the NPP and a member of Let My Vote Count Alliance.